Okay, Stuart, in our last interview, you told me your exile in London was a success because you were able to publish material on your blog. Okay, it's published. What's changed? What was so successful about that?
Well, as I've said many times, both to the media and in writing on my blog, the very nature of the battle we're engaged in here is a long-term entity. It's not the kind of thing where we're just going to publish some information and suddenly everything's going to change. Now, having obtained the evidence and having published it, that's a dramatic step forward, and that moves us towards the ability to us to take a legal action in London against the Justice Secretary in due course and other possible legal avenues. It adds politically also to the mix of things that are taking place here in Jersey. I've always said that given the nature of the oligarchy in Jersey that we're fighting against, there was never going to be a quick win against them. So the kind of stuff I've been working on in the last 6 months is a dramatic step forward. It's the kind of investigative journalism that you won't find anywhere in all of Jersey's local media combined, and it has taken the cause forward a very long way.
Okay, you told us, again, one of the reasons you were going to London, you touched on it there actually, one of the reasons you were going to London was to take the Minister of Justice, Jack Straw, to court. What happened?
Indeed, even more so than the investigative journalism, I've been working on legal research and have built up a working relationship with a leading human rights law firm in London. And I'm not a lawyer, so I've had to spend a lot of time researching and working on these things. And the law firm have devised for us and laid out an appropriate legal strategy by which the authorities in London, the Department of Justice and the Justice Secretary, can in fact be challenged successfully in UK courts for failing to enact their responsibilities in respect of the Jersey authorities. Again, with legal procedures, these are not the kind of things that happen quickly or that happen overnight. But again, we've taken a dramatic stride forward. We have the strategy devised. It may well be that we will press the button on that later this summer.
Okay. Upon returning to Jersey, your critics have claimed that you have only done so in an attempt to gain re-election for a steady income. Moreover, that the contempt you have shown for Jersey politics effectively rules you out as a viable candidate. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that's terribly presumptuous of people because it's only the voting public who decide who should or should not be states members, and that's entirely up to the electorate, and we won't know their view until after the elections. That might be the correct view. Quite possibly people may not want me back as a states member. If so, so be it. But I mean, quite clearly the accusation about wanting to do it just for the money is just frankly an idiotic and quite ignorant remark. I mean, if I was in this only for the money, then I wouldn't have let my term of office be terminated in the first place, and it's not even a credible argument that's worthy of spending time on.
Okay. For the last couple of years, you've been telling us on your blog, very infamous blog, that the oligarchy are going full, the bailiff, the deputy bailiff, the attorney general, the chief executive officer of the states, they're all going to fall. But they're still there.
They're still there for the time being. And the very fact that I've had to discover the kind of evidence I have against them and publish it, of itself proves just how mutually supporting these group of people are and how entrenched they are. These people control all meaningful power in Jersey: the legislature, the judiciary, the executive, senior civil service, everything basically. And they're engaged in a common enterprise of concealing any bad news, particularly the child abuse issues of the last couple of years. But generally it's anything that's scandalous over the decades. The Jersey establishment always close ranks and seek to cover it up. And again, as I have said throughout this whole saga, even 2 or 3 years ago, the only way we're ever going to make these people accountable and actually get rid of them, because they should be gotten rid of, they've exhibited quite disgraceful, indeed even illegal behaviours. The only way we will do that is through forcing external intervention of them, and that is that slow, long, hard task that I'm working on.
Okay, again on your blog, you've been accused of being judge, jury and executioner of certain individuals. What makes you think you have this right to openly accuse people of ghastly deeds for the whole world to look at, to read, to see?
I, like any decent person, let alone anyone who carries responsibility as an elected politician, actually has a duty to publicly expose bad, criminal and dreadful activities. It's in the public interest to do so. And that's especially the case, perhaps uniquely in Jersey amongst modern Western European democracies, in that it shouldn't be necessary for me to have published the kind of evidence I have. But sadly, it has been, because, again, another great volume of the evidence I have published shows that the system in Jersey of justice and of law enforcement has failed. It has failed to charge, even properly investigate, let alone charge and prosecute many of these people who do have powerful evidence cases against them. Not only have I published documentary evidence to that effect, I've also spoken to many, many of the victims of certain of these people. So it was either a case of letting them all get away with it completely, or exposing the truth.
Okay. For the last 3 years, is it 3 years? I think it's about 3 years you've been fighting the cause against the child abuse and for the victims and the survivors of the child abuse. How much further forward are you today than you were 3 years ago?
Oh, much further forward. We have very, very substantial volumes of hard evidence which proves the Jersey establishment have covered up decades of child abuse. This is one of the things that one often hears establishment critics of me and other campaigners saying, is that, oh, you have no proof, you have no proof. Well, that assertion by them is simply a lie. We do actually have proof. We have many, many, many examples of hard documentary evidence we have proven and published that shows the conduct of the Jersey establishment to be quite as graceful and unlawful. And a lot of that evidence has accumulated gradually in the course of the last 3 years, but in particular, much of the particularly damning evidence I've been able to obtain, I was only able to do so because I was in London for the last 6 months and able to publish it without fear of more unlawful arrests and imprisonment. Now, the fact that all of that evidence is now there in the public domain does in fact take the cause forward tremendously, which is why the legal developments, the legal strategy in London is so important, because obviously if we leave things up to the Jersey authorities, that evidence will not get acted upon. Whereas we can get this evidence into a court in London, they're going to have no choice.